He swore I was the only one he'd ever love. Then he traded me for a wealthier mistress. Now, he's on his knees, begging for forgiveness. Too bad for him. I've already fallen for someone else. Revenge was just the beginning. The first time I realized Adrian was lying to me, I was wearing his favorite dress, the emerald green one that made his eyes darken when he looked at me. We were at the Verith Gardens, where the high society of Lismer gathered to sip honeyed wine and pretend they weren't gossiping. Adrian had his hand resting on the small of my back, his thumb tracing idle circles through the silk. A possessive gesture. A lover's gesture. Then Lady Selene Arrington walked in. And his hand dropped like I'd burned him. "Excuse me for a moment," he murmured, already stepping away. I watched as he crossed the terrace, his posture shifting, shoulders straightening, smile smoothing into something polished and impersonal. The way he only did around people he needed something from. Celine's laughter rang out, bright and practiced, as Adrian kissed her knuckles. My fingers tightened around my wineglass. "You look like you're considering murder," a dry voice observed beside me. I turned to find my cousin Lyra, smirking into her drink. She wore a gown of deep violet, her dark curls pinned with silver combs. The very picture of elegance if you ignored the mischief in her eyes. "I'm considering many things," I said lightly. Lyra followed my gaze. "Oh, the illustrious Lady Arrington. Rumor has it her father's looking for a son-in-law. Is he? Preferably one with political connections and a fortune. So naturally," she gestured toward Adrian with her glass. I took a slow sip of wine. How fortunate for him. Watching as he led her into the opening waltz. His hand rested too low on her back. Her laughter was too bright. Every step they took together was a blade twisted between my ribs. Then the music shifted, a Lismerian reel. Lyra's smirk faded. "You're not seriously going to pretend you're fine with this?" I didn't answer. Because I wasn't fine. But I was going to smile. Adrian didn't return to my side until Lady Selene had drifted away, absorbed by another circle of admirers. "Sorry about that," he said, slipping his arm around my waist again. "Lord Arrington's been difficult about the trade negotiations. I had to pay my respects." I tilted my head. "Of course." His fingers flexed against my hip. "You're not upset?" "Why would I be?" I smiled up at him, soft, trusting, the way I knew he liked. "You're just doing what you must." The tension in his shoulders eased. He leaned down, brushing his lips against my temple. "You're perfect." I kept smiling. Because the truth was I had been perfect. Perfectly loyal. Perfectly patient. Perfectly in love. And he'd still chosen to betray me. Later that evening, Lyra and I retreated to the quieter edges of the garden, where the lanterns cast flickering shadows over the rose bushes. "So," she said, plucking a petal between her fingers. "What's the plan?" "Plan? Don't play coy. You've got that look." "What look?" "The one that says you're about to ruin someone's life." I laughed, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "I'm just observing." "Observing what?" "How easily he lies." Lyra studied me. "You're really not going to confront him? And give him the chance to sweet-talk his way out of it?" I shook my head. "No. I want him to realize." "Realize what?" "That he lost me before he even knew I was gone." The next morning I paid a visit to Madame Soline's dress shop. Soline was a wiry woman with sharp eyes and sharper scissors, renowned for outfitting half the noblewomen in Lismer. She also happened to be the worst gossip in the city. "Lady Selene was in yesterday," she remarked as she pinned the hem of my new gown. "Ordered 3 new dresses for the summer season. Silk, all of them." "How lovely for her," I said, examining my reflection. Soline's lips curved. "She mentioned Lord Adrian escorted her." "Did she?" Said he was most attentive." I met her gaze in the mirror. "How interesting." Soline's eyes gleamed. "Isn't it?" I left with my new dress and a well-placed rumor already spreading. By the time I returned home, my brother Cale was waiting in the parlor, his boots propped on the tea table. "You're grinning," he said suspiciously. "Am I?" "Yes. And the last time you grinned like that, Father's prized stallion mysteriously ended up dyed pink." I poured myself a cup of tea. "That was an accident. It was revenge because he wouldn't let you go to the solstice ball." I sipped my tea. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Kale groaned. Who's the victim this time? I set my cup down. Adrian. His expression darkened. What did he do? He's courting Lady Selene. Kale stared at me. Then he stood, reaching for the sword he always kept leaning against the sofa. I rolled my eyes. Put that away. I don't need you to challenge him to a duel. Then what do you need? I smiled. A distraction. That distraction came in the form of Rian Velis, Kale's best friend, and, coincidentally, the one man Adrian had always been just a little too wary of. Rian arrived at our townhouse that evening, his dark hair windswept from riding, his grin as sharp as the dagger at his belt. You summoned me? He teased, dropping into the chair across from me. I slid a glass of brandy toward him. I need a favor. His eyebrow arched. What kind? The fun kind. Rian leaned forward, his green eyes alight with interest. Do tell. And so I did. Rian Velis listened to my plan with the kind of quiet amusement that made most people nervous. He swirled his brandy, the firelight catching the gold in his eyes. So let me summarize, he said. You want me to pretend to court you. Not pretend, I corrected. Flirt. Publicly. And this will accomplish what exactly? I smiled. Adrian's pride is his weakest point. He won't stand for losing something he thinks is his. Rian's lips twitched. You're terrifying. I'll take that as a compliment. Kale, who had been pacing the length of the parlor, groaned. This is a terrible idea. I ignored him. Well, Rian, are you in? Rian drained his glass and set it down with a decisive clink. Oh, I'm in. The first opportunity came 3 days later at the Luminera Ball, the glittering highlight of Lismer's social season. I wore the dress I'd commissioned from Soline, deep crimson with a neckline that dipped just low enough to be scandalous. Lyra had arranged my hair in loose waves, secured with ruby pins that caught the light like embers. You look like vengeance personified, she said approvingly. Good. Adrian was already there when I arrived, standing near the champagne fountain with Lady Selene on his arm. She wore silver, her pale hair coiled in an intricate braid. They looked like a match set. I didn't approach them. Instead, I let my gaze slide past Adrian as if he were just another guest. Then I turned, smiling as Rian materialized at my side. Right on time, I murmured. He offered his arm. Shall we? Rian was a master of subtle theatrics. He guided me through the ballroom with effortless charm, his hand resting possessively at the small of my back. He laughed at my jokes a little too loudly, leaned in a little too close when I spoke. By the time we reached the dance floor, half the room was watching. I caught Adrian's stare across the crowd. His jaw was tight. Rian noticed too. He looks like he's swallowed a lemon, he murmured in my ear. I suppressed a grin. Perfect. Then the music swelled and Rian pulled me into the waltz. Dancing with Rian was nothing like dancing with Adrian. Adrian had always been precise, calculated, every step measured for propriety. Rian moved like he had fire in his veins, spinning me just a little too fast, his grip firm and unapologetic. You're enjoying this, I accused as he dipped me low. His grin was unrepentant. Immensely. When the dance ended, my pulse was racing. And Adrian was heading straight for us. A word, Adrian said, his voice clipped. Rian raised an eyebrow. You're interrupting. Privately, Adrian gritted out. I exchanged a glance with Rian, who sighed dramatically before releasing me. Fine. But I'll be watching. Adrian didn't dignify that with a response. He steered me toward the balcony, his grip just shy of too tight. The night air was cool against my skin. What are you doing? He demanded the moment we were out of earshot. I blinked innocently. Dancing. With Rian Velis? He's an excellent dancer. Adrian's eyes darkened. You're making a scene. Am I? I tilted my head. I wasn't aware I belonged to you. The words hung between us, sharp as a blade. For the first time, Adrian looked uncertain. I didn't give him a chance to recover. You've been courting Lady Selene, I said calmly. He stiffened. It's politics. Nothing more. Really? Because from where I stood, it looked like you were very invested. You're overreacting. I laughed. Oh, Adrian, you don't get to dismiss me anymore. His expression shifted, confusion, then frustration, then something dangerously close to panic. What do you want? I stepped closer, close enough that my breath brushed his jaw. I want nothing from you. Then I turned and walked away. Rian was waiting where I'd left him, leaning against a marble column with a fresh glass of champagne. Well? He asked as I rejoined him. I took the glass from his hand and drained it. Phase 1 complete. He smirked. On to Phase 2? On to Phase 2. Phase 2 involved Lady Celine. I found her near the dessert table, picking at a delicate fruit tart. Lady Celine, I greeted warmly. She blinked, startled. Oh, hello. Up close she was even lovelier, with wide blue eyes and a soft, hesitant smile. I don't believe we've been properly introduced, I continued. I know who you are, she interrupted, then flushed. That is, Adrian has mentioned you. Has he? I smiled. All good things, I hope. She hesitated. He said you were friends. I laughed lightly. Is that what he's calling it? Her grip tightened on her plate. I leaned in, lowering my voice. Let me give you some advice, Lady Celine. Adrian is a man who likes to keep his options open. I'd ask him exactly what his intentions are, before you find yourself in my position. Then I left her there, staring after me with dawning realization. By the time the ball ended, the whispers had already started. Did you see Adrian's face when she danced with Rian? Lady Celine looked like she'd seen a ghost. I heard they were practically engaged. Lyra found me by the carriage, giddy with triumph. You're evil. I grinned. This is just the beginning. The next morning a letter arrived. Meet me at the Sunspire Quay. Noon. I burned it without replying. Adrian sent 3 more letters. I burned them all. On the 4th day he resorted to standing outside my family's townhouse like a lovesick poet, his coat damp from the morning mist. I watched him from my bedroom window, sipping tea as he paced the cobblestones. Cale leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. You're enjoying this too much. I'm not enjoying it enough, I said. He looks miserable. Good. Cale sighed. You're going to make him beg, aren't you? I set my cup down. Oh, he's not even close to begging yet. The next time I saw Adrian it wasn't by accident. I had orchestrated it perfectly. A stroll through the Meridian Promenade, the busiest shopping avenue in Lismore, during peak hour. I wore a dress the color of crushed violets, my hair pinned in soft curls. Beside me, Rian played his role flawlessly, his fingers laced with mine as we browsed the jeweler's displays. Adrian spotted us from across the street. I saw the exact moment his composure cracked. He crossed the promenade in quick strides, his polished boots clicking against the cobblestones. We need to talk. Rian smirked. You're interrupting again. Adrian ignored him, his gaze locked on me. Please. There it was, the first hint of desperation. I tilted my head. 5 minutes. We stepped into the quiet alcove of a nearby tea shop. Adrian's hands flexed at his sides as if he wanted to reach for me but didn't dare. You've been avoiding me, he said. Astute observation. I apologize, he bit out. Is that what you want? I laughed softly. An apology? Oh, that's not what I want. Then what? I studied him, the tension in his shoulders, the faint shadow under his eyes. He hadn't been sleeping. Good. I want you to understand what you lost, I said. His jaw tightened. You're being cruel. No, I corrected. I'm being honest. You thought you could keep me tucked away while you chased Lady Celine's fortune. You thought I would just wait for you. I stepped closer, close enough to see the flicker of unease in his eyes. But I'm not yours anymore. His breath hitched. I turned and walked away. Rian was waiting where I'd left him, examining a delicate silver bracelet at the jeweler's stall. Well? He asked without looking up. He's starting to unravel. Rian grinned. I love it when you're ruthless. I plucked the bracelet from his fingers and slid it onto my wrist. This is pretty. Buy it for yourself. Consider it a reward for excellent scheming. I arched a brow. With whose money? Mine, obviously. He tossed a handful of coins to the jeweler before I could protest. I stared at him. You can't just. Too late. He caught my hand, his thumb brushing over the silver links. Besides, it suits you. For a moment I forgot to breathe. Then I remembered we were still in public. I pulled my hand away. You're incorrigible. His grin widened. And you're blushing. Lady Celine found me 2 days later. She cornered me in the Imperial Library, where I had been researching trade laws, purely for future ammunition against Adrian. "May I speak with you?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. I closed my book. "Of course." She sat across from me, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Up close, I could see the faint smudges under her eyes. She hadn't been sleeping either. "Adrian told me everything," she said. I blinked. "Did he?" "He said you were involved. Before me." I leaned back in my chair. "And what else did he say?" She hesitated. "That it was over. That it meant nothing." I laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "And you believed him?" Her fingers twisted in her skirts. I don't know what to believe anymore. For the first time I felt a flicker of sympathy. Lady Celine wasn't the villain here. Adrian was. I exhaled slowly. "Do you love him?" She startled. I hardly know him." "Then why marry him?" "My father." She cut herself off, shaking her head. "It doesn't matter. I just wanted to know if what he said was true." I studied her, the way her shoulders hunched, the quiet resignation in her voice. She was just another pawn in this game. "Adrian and I were together for 2 years, I said finally. "He told me I was the only one he'd ever love." I smiled bitterly. "Then he met you." Her breath caught. "So no," I continued. "It wasn't nothing. And it wasn't over. Not until he realized I wouldn't wait quietly while he secured a wealthier bride." Lady Celine's face paled. "I didn't know." "I know you didn't." I reached across the table, squeezing her hand gently. "But now you do." I didn't see Adrian again for a week. But the rumors reached me anyway. Lady Celine called off the courtship. "Lord Arrington is furious. Adrian's investors are withdrawing their support." Lyra delivered the news with gleeful relish over breakfast. "His trade deal is collapsing." I stirred honey into my tea. "How tragic." Kale groaned. "You're scary." Rian, who had invited himself over unannounced again, smirked. "Isn't she?" I ignored them both. Then one evening Adrian showed up at my door. Not polished. Not composed. Desperate. His hair was disheveled, his cravat loose. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Please," he said hoarsely. "Just, please." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. The evening air was cool, the sky streaked with twilight. "What do you want, Adrian?" He dragged a hand through his hair. "I lost everything." "Yes," I said. "You did." His breath shuddered. "I made a mistake." "No," I met his gaze, unflinching. "You made a choice. And now you live with it." For a moment he just stared at me. Then to my shock his eyes welled with tears. "I love you," he choked out. I smiled. "No," I said softly. "You just hate losing." I turned to go back inside. Adrian caught my wrist. "What do I have to do?" I didn't pull away. "There's nothing you can do." His grip tightened. "I'll beg if that's what you want." I studied him, the raw panic in his eyes, the tremor in his hands. This was the moment I'd waited for. And yet, it didn't feel as satisfying as I'd imagined. I gently pried his fingers away. "Goodbye, Adrian." Then I walked inside and closed the door. Later on the terrace, Rian found me staring at the stars. "Regrets?" he asked quietly. I shook my head. "No." He leaned against the railing beside me. "Then why do you look so sad?" I exhaled. "Because I thought revenge would feel better." Rian was silent for a long moment. Then he nudged my shoulder with his. "Maybe it's not revenge you needed." I glanced at him. "What do you mean?" He smirked. "Maybe you just needed me." I rolled my eyes, but I didn't pull away when his fingers brushed mine. Adrian didn't come back. Not the next day or the day after that. By the end of the week, the scandal had settled into something quieter. A murmur at parties, a knowing glance between merchants in the market. The Arrington family had withdrawn from public events, and Lady Celine had left the city entirely, retreating to her family's country estate. I should have felt victorious. Instead I felt hollow. Lyra found me curled in the window seat of the library, a book forgotten in my lap. "You're brooding," she announced, stealing the cushion beside me. "I'm thinking." "Same thing." He nudged my knee. "You won. Why aren't you celebrating?" I traced the edge of the book's spine. I thought it would feel different. Lyra sighed. Because you actually loved him. I didn't deny it. She leaned her head against my shoulder. Love doesn't vanish just because someone betrays you. It just hurts instead. I swallowed past the tightness in my throat. When did you get so wise? He grinned. Birth. The first real sign that the world had moved on came in the form of an invitation. Lord and Lady Daneth request the pleasure of your company at the midsummer masquerade. Cale tossed the gilded card onto my breakfast plate. You're not going. I picked it up, running my thumb over the embossed script. Why not? Because Adrian will be there. So. Cale stared at me. So. I shrugged. I'm not the one who should be hiding. Rian, who had, yet again, invited himself to breakfast, snatched the invitation from my fingers. I'll escort you. Cale groaned. Absolutely not. Rian ignored him, his gaze locked on me. Well. I tilted my head. Are you asking as my fake suitor or my real one? His lips curved. Whichever gets me a dance. Cale made a sound like a dying animal. The midsummer masquerade was the kind of event where secrets thrived. Guests wore elaborate half-masks, their identities obscured just enough to encourage mischief. The ballroom was draped in ivy and twinkling lanterns, the air thick with the scent of roses and wine. I wore a gown of midnight blue, my mask studded with tiny sapphires. Rian, predictably, had chosen all black, his jacket tailored to perfection, his mask a sleek panther's guise. He offered me his arm the moment I descended the stairs. Ready? I took a steadying breath. Yes. Adrian spotted me within minutes. He stood near the orchestra, his mask a simple silver, his posture rigid. He was alone. Our eyes met across the crowd. I didn't look away. Rian's hand settled possessively on my waist. Do you want to leave? No. Do you want me to punch him? I snorted. Tempting, but no. Rian sighed. You're no fun. I didn't seek Adrian out. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. We collided near the terrace doors. Him stepping back, me stepping forward, a jarring stumble that left us inches apart. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then Adrian exhaled sharply. You look beautiful. I stiffened. Don't. His jaw tightened. I just. What? Want to apologize again? Beg for forgiveness. I shook my head. It's too late, Adrian. His voice dropped. I know. That stopped me. Because for the first time he sounded like he meant it. The music swelled behind us, a waltz starting up. Adrian hesitated, then held out his hand. One dance. I stared at it. Why? Because I never got to say goodbye. I should have refused. But curiosity, or maybe just old habit, made me slip my hand into his. Dancing with Adrian again was like stepping into a memory. His steps were still precise, his grip still familiar. But something between us had shifted, something irrevocable. I miss you, he murmured. I didn't respond. He exhaled. I deserved that. Yes, I said. You did. The song ended too soon. Adrian released me, his fingers lingering for a fraction too long. For what it's worth. I hope you're happy. I met his gaze. I will be. Then I walked away. Rian found me on the terrace where I was gripping the railing a little too tightly. Well, he asked. I let out a shaky breath. I think I'm finally free. He studied me for a long moment. Then without a word he pulled me into a hug. I stiffened, then melted against him, my face buried in his shoulder. Thank you, I mumbled. He chuckled. For what? For not saying I told you so. His arms tightened around me. Give me time. The rest of the night passed in a blur. We danced. We drank. We laughed as Cale grumbled about reckless decisions and emotional disasters. And when the clock struck midnight, Rian tugged me into a shadowed alcove, his fingers brushing my cheek. Ask me, he murmured. I blinked. Ask you what? Why I really escorted you tonight. My pulse skipped. Why did you? His thumb traced my jaw. Because I wanted to. Then he kissed me. And for the first time in months, I didn't think about Adrian at all. The next morning, Lyra barged into my room with a grin. So, she said, flopping onto my bed. You and Rian, huh? I groaned, pulling a pillow over my face. Go away. She yanked it off. Details. I hesitated. Then slowly I smiled. It's new. Lyra's eyes sparkled. But it's good. I thought of Rian's laugh, his teasing, the way his hands had felt in my hair. Yeah, I said softly. It's good. The morning after the masquerade, I woke to the sound of someone pounding on my bedroom door. Open this door before I break it down. Kale's voice was a thunderclap through the wood. I groaned, dragging a pillow over my face. The sunlight streaming through the curtains was obscene for how little sleep I'd gotten. The door flew open before I could answer. Kale stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking like he'd swallowed a wasp. Behind him, Lyra leaned against the frame, grinning like she'd orchestrated this entire scene. You kissed Rian Velas. I sat up slowly, squinting at him. And. Kale's voice cracked. He's my best friend. Lyra snorted. Oh no. However will you survive? Kale whirled on her. You knew. She held up her hands. I had suspicions. I rubbed my temples. Kale, I'm 23 years old. I don't need your permission. He gaped at me. But, him. I arched a brow. Would you prefer Adrian? Kale made a strangled noise. Lyra patted his shoulder. Let it go, brother. She could do worse. Kale muttered something under his breath that sounded like, I'll kill him. Rian of course found the entire thing hilarious. He arrived just before noon, strolling into the parlor like he hadn't a care in the world, which, given the murderous look Kale shot him, was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Morning, Rian said, dropping onto the sofa beside me. Kale's eye twitched. I smirked. Sleep well. Rian stretched, his arm brushing mine. Like the dead. Kale stood abruptly. I need air. Lyra followed, tossing a wink over her shoulder. Once they were gone, Rian turned to me. So, that went well. I laughed. He'll get over it. Rian's fingers traced idle patterns on the back of my hand. And you? I met his gaze. I'm fine. His thumb stilled. Just fine. I hesitated. I thought I'd feel different. After everything with Adrian. Rian studied me for a long moment. Then softly, revenge doesn't erase the past. It just closes the door. I exhaled. I know. His fingers laced through mine. Good thing there are other doors then. I rolled my eyes, but I didn't let go. Adrian, to his credit, didn't vanish entirely. He resurfaced a week later at the Imperial Trade Summit, where the merchant lords and noble houses gathered to negotiate tariffs and alliances. I attended with my father, who had been in talks with Lord Arrington over a shipping contract. One that, rumor had it, was now in jeopardy thanks to Adrian's indiscretions. Adrian stood stiffly beside his father, his expression carefully blank. When he saw me, his jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. I didn't either. Lord Arrington, however, had no such composure. You, he hissed, stepping into my path. You think you've won? My father moved instantly, his hand settling on my shoulder. Careful, Arrington. Lord Arrington's lip curled. Your daughter has cost my family thousands. I smiled sweetly. Your son cost you that. Not me. Adrian flinched. Lord Arrington's face darkened, but before he could retort, a familiar voice cut in. Problem here. Rian. He stood at my other side, his posture relaxed, his smile razor-sharp. Lord Arrington paled. Velas. Rian arched a brow. That's my name. The tension crackled. Then, with a muttered curse, Lord Arrington stormed off, dragging Adrian behind him. Rian exhaled. Charming family. I squeezed his hand. Thanks. He smirked. Anytime. The real trouble started that evening. Lyra burst into my room, her eyes alight. You'll never guess what I just heard. I set down my book. What? Adrian's engagement to Lady Selene wasn't just political. Her father was bankrolling the Arringtons' latest venture. I blinked. What? Lyra dropped onto the bed. The Arringtons are broke. Or close enough. Adrian was supposed to secure the marriage and the funds, before anyone noticed. I stared at her. And now Lord Arrington is scrambling to find another investor. And failing. A slow, vicious satisfaction curled in my chest. Lyra grinned. Karma's a bitch. The next morning, Kale finally cracked. He cornered Rian in the training yard, sword in hand. You hurt her, I kill you, he said flatly. Rian raised his hands. Noted. Kale glared. I'm serious. Rian met his gaze. So am I. Something unspoken passed between them. Then Kale sighed and lowered his sword. Damn it. Rian grinned. Does this mean I'm forgiven? Kale punched him in the shoulder. No. By the time the season ended, the rumors had shifted. Adrian had left the city, sent to manage one of his family's failing estates up north. Lady Celine had reportedly taken up with a scholar from the university. And Lord Arrington was still scrambling to salvage his debts. As for me, I was sitting in the gardens, a book in my lap, Rian's head resting on my shoulder as he dozed in the sun. Lyra plopped down beside us. You look disgustingly happy. I smirked. I am. Rian cracked one eye open. Go away, Lyra. She stuck out her tongue. Make me. I laughed and realized with a quiet thrill that this was enough. More than enough. That night, Rian pulled me onto the dance floor at Lady Tessa's farewell ball. No masks this time, he murmured, spinning me into the waltz. I arched a brow. Disappointed. His grip tightened. Never. The music swelled around us, bright and alive. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't look back. The first time Rian said I love you, it wasn't in the soft glow of candlelight or beneath a sky full of stars. It was in the middle of an argument. You're impossible, I snapped, throwing my hands up as he blocked the doorway to my bedroom. Rian didn't move. His jaw was set, his green eyes dark with something I couldn't quite name. You were flirting with him. With who? Lord Daneth's son. At the ball. I stared at him. I was politely nodding while he talked about horses. Rian's fingers flexed at his sides. You smiled. Because he was boring and I was being polite. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a growl. I don't like it. I arched a brow. You don't like it? No. Another step. I don't like the way he looked at you. I don't like the way you humored him. And I really don't like the fact that I wanted to put my fist through a wall the entire time. My breath hitched. Rian wasn't jealous. He was possessive. And God's help me, it was intoxicating. I tilted my chin up. What are you going to do about it? His hands caught my waist, slamming me back against the doorframe. This. Then his mouth crashed down on mine. Kissing Rian was never gentle. It was fire and teeth and desperate, hungry hands. His fingers tangled in my hair, angling my head back as he deepened the kiss, his tongue sweeping against mine in a way that made my knees weak. I gasped when he bit my lower lip. Rian chuckled darkly. That's what you get. I shoved him back, just enough to spin us, reversing our positions so he was the one pinned against the wall. His eyes flared with surprise, then heat as I dragged my nails down his chest. You, I said, are insufferable. He grinned. But you love me. I froze. So did he. The words hung between us, raw and unplanned. Rian's expression shifted. Uncertainty, then something terrifyingly vulnerable. I didn't let him take it back. Yes, I whispered. I do. His breath left him in a rush. Then his hands were on my face, his forehead pressed to mine. Say it again. I smiled. I love you. He kissed me like he was drowning. Later. Much later, we lay tangled in my bedsheets, the moonlight painting silver streaks across Rian's bare skin. I traced the scar on his shoulder, a relic from a duel he refused to talk about. You're staring. He caught my hand, pressing a kiss to my palm. Can't help it. I rolled my eyes, but my cheeks warmed. Rian's thumb brushed my lower lip. You're blushing. No, I'm not. He laughed, low and warm, before rolling me beneath him. Liar. I hooked a leg around his waist. Prove it. His grin turned wicked. And he did. Morning came too soon. Rian was already awake when I opened my eyes, propped up on one elbow, watching me with a softness that made my chest ache. Morning, he murmured. I stretched, wincing at the pleasant soreness in my muscles. You're smug. He kissed my shoulder. I'm happy. I turned to face him, brushing a stray lock of dark hair from his forehead. Me too. His fingers traced idle patterns on my hip. What now? What do you mean? We've ruined Adrian's life. Fallen in love. Thoroughly scandalized your brother. He smirked. What's next? I pretended to think. World domination? Rian laughed, pulling me closer. I was thinking something smaller. Like. His voice dropped. Marry me. I went still. Rian's gaze never wavered. I'm not asking as a joke. I'm not asking because it's convenient. I'm asking because I love you, and I don't ever want to let you go. My breath caught. Then I kissed him. And when I pulled back, my answer was simple. Yes. Kale took the news about as well as expected. Absolutely not. Lyra clapped her hands. Finally. Rian just grinned, his arms slung around my waist. Too late. She said yes. Kale looked like he was considering murder. I patted his shoulder. You'll get used to it. He groaned. I hate both of you. Rian kissed my temple. No, you don't. Kale muttered something under his breath and stalked off. Lyra winked at us. He'll come around. I smiled. I know. We married in the spring. No grand spectacle. No political alliances. Just us in a sunlit garden surrounded by the people who mattered. Kale stood as Rian's best man, grumbling the entire time. Lyra cried. And when Rian slid the ring onto my finger, his voice was rough with emotion. Forever. I kissed him. And meant it. Adrian's last letter arrived on our 1-year anniversary. I heard the news. I hope he deserves you. I didn't burn it. I tucked it away in a drawer, not out of sentiment but as a reminder. Of how far I'd come. Of what I'd gained. And when Rian found me later, his arms wrapped around me from behind, his lips brushing my ear. Stop thinking about the past. I turned in his arms, smiling. Who said I was? His eyes softened. Then he kissed me. And the past didn't matter anymore. The end.